It's Jesse Crosby here. Today I will be talking to you about the history of photography. First, I will discuss where photography came from. Second, I will discuss the negative to positive process. Third, I will talk about the advancement in technology. Then I will move on to the advancement of the camera. And finally, I will talk about the similarities and differences of the advancement. So, starting off, according to inventors.com, photography is a word derived from the Greek words photos and graphene. Photos meaning light and graphene meaning to draw. Inventors.com has stated that the word was first used by scientist Sir John F. W. Herschel in 1839. This is a method of recording images by the action of light when related to radiation on sensitive material. Inventors.com also stated that this first method came from Alhazen, a great authority on optics and a middle-aged who lived around 100 AD. He invented the first pinhole camera, also called the camera obscura. This was observed and noted by Aristotle in 330 BC, who questioned why the sun could make a circular image when it shined through a square hole. Photo.net has stated that Louis Daguerre was the inventor of the first practical process of photography. This is the process of fixed images onto a silver-plated copper, and this copper was polished and coated with iodine, creating a surface when exposed to light. This photograph was then placed in chlorine, and this process created a lasting image that would not change if it was exposed to light. Second, I'm going to discuss the negative and positive process and evolution of photography. So moving on to this process, according to inventors.com again, Henry Fox Talbot was the inventor, in which the first negative form of which multiple processes stemmed from, and Talbot was a contemporary form of Daguerre. He had the process of bringing light to paper. When it mixed with a salt solution, this paper was then exposed to light and the background became black. The subject was rendered in gradations of gray, and this negative image from the paper was then turned into contact prints, reversing the light and shadows to create a detailed image. In transitioning over to inventors.com again, in 1841, the negative paper process was defined as a calotype. This is Greek for beautiful picture. The first flexible film rolls, according to inventors.com, was dated to the 1889, which was made of cellulose nitrate, which is chemically similar to gun cotton. A nitrate-based film would deteriorate over time, releasing oxidants and acidic gases. So this nitrate film is very important historical time in photography because it allowed for the development of film rolls, and through the mid-1920s, the medium film mat roll was created. This is a 35mm film, and it came in a wide roll on a spool. So, moving on to the technology that has evolved today. According to Photo.net, technology has produced today T-grain emulsions, and these fume light-sensitive silvered grains are T-shaped, rendering a grain pattern. Inventors.com has stated that a higher resolution means sharper images, and the lower the ISO, the finer the grain, and slower the film. The slower the film, the more light is needed to expose it. Linen rag papers were originally used as the base for these photographic prints, and Inventors.com has stated that this photographic paper was used as the base along with gelatin when properly processed. These prints were longer lasting and enhanced and toned with a brown or a sepia, which we're familiar with. And these color prints were not successful in the beginning, that being because they were used with organic dyes, and these dyes deteriorated and took away from the photograph in the beginning. Moving on to the advancement of the camera, Photo.net has stated in 1905, Oscar Barnick had the idea of reducing the format of film negatives and then enlarging the photographs after they've been exposed. So he took this concept with the exposure of cinema film and turned it into the world's first 35mm camera. Polaroid photography was invented by Edwin Herbert Land. The photographer invented this one-step process for developing and printing photographs. This is also in reference to inventors.com. The disposable camera was then introduced by Fuji in 1986, and these disposable cameras are recyclable and called single-use cameras. In February 1992, Kodak introduced the photo CD, and this is the first method of storing images to become available to the general public. Digital images, mind you. So in conclusion, according to graphic design, articles, and features, photography has enhanced enormous changes in technology in recent years. In reviewing of my main points, I discussed where photography was derived from. Then I moved on to negative and positive processes. Third, I discussed the advancement in photography. Then I reviewed the advancement of the camera, and in conclusion, I discussed the similarities and differences of the advancement. Digital cameras have primarily taken over the photographic world, but the process of photography has evolved from unique and complex processes, making our universal photography much more easier than it was in the Dark Ages. There are a plethoric amount of similarities, however major differences as well. The history of photography has evolved from one of the most unique processes to date. So in conclusion, the advancement of photography has remained somewhat the same over time. However, there are many advances since the Dark Ages. Digital cameras have definitely adopted the same ISO system that was used back in the mid-1920s. The advancement in the film processing and digital cameras have changed the way that we view photography and photographs, and there are some major differences with the process of developing film, but actually darkrooms are still being used today to process film, and the evolution of this process has helped shape our universal world as we have evolved and changed our perspective of photography. Thank you so much for joining me in the history of photography. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about it and learned some awesome facts and details. I look forward to speaking with all of you soon. Have a wonderful afternoon.